I think he's still muted. Or frozen entirely.
This is Isaiah, joined with Satan himself, Mr. Beelzebub. Can you hear me?
Sort of. Came in a little choppy.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Joined
Good.
with Satan himself, Mr. Beelzebub. Did I get your name right?
It's Beelzebub. It's admittedly a play on Beelzebub. It's just my first and last initial, and Beelzebub thrown in at the end.
All right. So you're not Satan himself, though. You do have the red. You do have the red. What is that? Is that a sweater or a blanket?
Hoodie. It's
okay.
I heard out Ohio State. I
was going to say, how's the weather right now? This last weekend here in South Korea, there was this, huge like snowstorm that went blowing through here, and so my cousin was stuck down in an island. He got stuck there because he had to cancel all the flights and the ferries. But yeah, I got pretty cold here. So how's the weather over there?
It's doing whatever it wants. It literally has, in the last few days, flip-flopped twice between being nice and warm where I can go outside in a t-shirt to snowing. So the weather here just does whatever it feels like doing.
I see. All right. Well, we're going to start off here with a round of friendly fire. So are you ready for friendly fire?
Hope so.
All right, here we go.
Friendly fire.
What do you think about that? That's actually my voice. That's actually my voice. I just
put it into my live streams. So I'll give you that.
All right. All right. So here we go. All right. You look like an indie hipster guy. So what's your favorite indie band?
Oh, God. How are we defining indie? Out of curiosity, because I mostly listen to a lot of hard rock, but there's a lot of like more sort of undergroundish rock I listen to.
Yeah. Well, the technical way to describe indie music is music that nobody listens to. So if you listen to it, it's not indie music. So it's kind of like a paradox. All right. But anyway, favorite bands, top 3?
Favorite band of all time, Breaking Benjamin. Lately, I've been listening to a lot of Architects, and for the life of me, I can't remember the other one. Hold up, it's right on top of my YouTube music.
All right,
it's actually Bloodhound Gang. Yes, I do listen to the Bloodhound Gang in the year of our Lord 2023.
You talking about? Okay, the old school. Okay, all right. Here we go. Next one. Okay, next one. If you're gonna get killed by any fictional horror movie character, who do you want to die at the hands of? That's the important one.
Wow, has to be horror.
Has to be horror.
Oh God, I don't like horror that much. I don't find it very frightening. I don't know, just because of the element of surprise it would give me, I would have to say the non-personified death from the Final Destination movies.
Interesting. That's a very interesting series. Though I gotta say, it's a bit ironic that it was called The Final Destination, but there was like 5 sequels, so there should have really only been 1. But okay, that's fine. All right, and last one, your favorite pizza topping.
God, actually, you know what? I'm gonna be kind of boring here. Sausage.
Sausage. There we go. All right. Yeah. Well, before we get started, I'm wondering if you could just give me a quick, 1-minute recap of whatever worldview you might have, and how long you've had that worldview.
Well, I don't really consider atheism to be a worldview. It's just a answer to a single point of data. But I am a humanist, so I believe that people should be treated with respect and decency, and I tend to try to fight against things that are against that. So like the Pastor Greg Locks of the world, I try to fight against them. And I try to promote better people like my friends Christy Santiago, Gray Skeptic, who are part of League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism. Really good friends of mine. And they talk about humanism a lot on their channel, as well as different news topics. So
I'm actually quite a big fan of sacrilegious humor or things that like downplay the seriousness of some of these issues. That's why I had such a ridiculous intro for the Friendly Fire, because people tend to get really upset when you start talking about issues or questioning their worldview. And so that's definitely something I like to avoid on this channel. Any chance, did you get a chance to see the talk I did with the people who ran the Atheist Society?
I did not know.
Okay. All right. Because basically in that talk, there are two atheist people, and we're just laughing like the whole time, making jokes. And we clashed heads on some issues, but we did so respectfully and with empathy, which is like the two of the letters of this podcast. So that being said, have you gotten a chance to overlook the questions that I had for you?
I have. I actually did a little bit of reviewing before I came on. So just
okay. All right.
Make sure I'm not blindsided by, not paying attention to what I should be,
Well, that's the reason why I always provide the questions in advance, because I don't want to blindside people and I don't want to try to put people into corners. I've been in talks where people try to push me into like a corner and ask me gotcha questions, and I find it a really dishonest way of engaging. So that's definitely not what we try to do for the podcast. So anyway, without further ado, you ready to get in this?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Okay. First question, number one. How would you define anti-theism? Because you told me in the last podcast that you were an anti-theist. So do me the honors and explain that.
So you're going to find, like with everything, some philosophical dissent among other anti-theists. I'm probably one of the more lenient ones you're going to find, but you've also got some that are more strict. But to me, the idea of anti-theism is built on the premise that religion generally causes more harm than it does good. And, at least the more harmful aspects, the more harmful religions deserve the most attention, which is kind of why I devote most of my time to Catholicism. Not a big fan. Grew up that way.
You grew up Catholic?
I did, yeah. That's actually the funny thing about most atheists, at least in the United States. We started out some sort of religious. Mm-hmm. So
I just got back from Europe in December, and I got to see some of the cathedrals, the Catholic cathedrals, including like what was that?
They're gorgeous, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like on an obscene level of opulence and decadence on it. I would describe it as decadence. But yeah, they're like unbelievably amazing. Actually, I went to Kosovo like about 10 years ago when I was an atheist, and I got to see a monastery that's like, I guess, like Orthodox. And yeah, that place was crazy, man. Like they had like this crypt where you felt like, man, yeah, you felt like you're transported in time like 1,000 years. It was a surreal experience. I'll say that. But okay, all right. So follow-up question I have for that is, okay, so why? Okay. So why would you define yourself as being anti something rather than like just saying I'm a humanitarian? To me, like if you've ever heard about like how do you call it, like affirmations, like the incantations that you're supposed to like tell yourself. Like they always tell you to write things like in a positive manner. Like let's just say I wanted to stop smoking. You don't say something like, "Oh, I don't smoke anymore." You say something like, "I'm free of nicotine addiction," something like that. So what is the purpose? Mantras, yeah, yeah. So what is the purpose of defining yourself as being something that you're against? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's actually kind of like defining myself as an atheist. I'm defining myself by something I don't believe in because I'm not really given that much of a choice. When I look at religion, I don't see much of a choice but to be against it. I mean, you just like let's take the Catholic Church for example, the religion I grew up in. You see so much harm coming from that. You see all the anti-LGBT bigotry coming out of it, all the hate and demeaning treatment towards women. You got the mass graves that are still being found in Canada and the United States from the residential schools. I mean, you see so much harm being caused just by the Catholic Church. I honestly don't see how you can be for it. You almost have to be against it.
Kaz, so grateful for you to be joining us. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Kaz. We'll let you get on the next question, Kaz. But you said the mass graves of what?
Indigenous children in residential schools Canada and the United States.
I see.
Schools that the Catholic Church had control over, and more or less, not more or less, actually committed two different types of genocide. You have the actual genocide of the people, which is the children filling the mass graves, and you've got the cultural genocide, which is them having the culture, in a lot of cases, literally beaten out of them, not being allowed to speak their language, not being allowed to worship their deities, do any of their practices. They have to cut their hair, which is something that's considered to be sacred in a lot of tribes, is to have longer hair. So
yeah, I saw something very interesting where the hunters were able to feel like the wind blowing on their hair and kind of sense a direction and stuff. And I thought that was very interesting. Helped them to orientate themselves while hunting and traveling. And yeah, I do have to tell you this. It is mind-boggling to me as a Protestant that people, Catholics, are part of that religion denomination. It is mind-boggling to me, especially when you look at the sexual abuse and stuff that's taken place and just flat out been tolerated and accepted among the Catholic Church. I mean, it's really disturbing. But Cass, you got a follow-up?
Which question are you on, by the way?
Number one.
Yeah. Are you still on how we define anti-theism?
Yeah. Do you have a definition?
The position of being against theism, the belief that theism is a net negative to society.
Theism, the belief in God, right?
Yeah.
The belief that believing in God is a negative thing, right?
That's what I define it as. Did you guys already go over your definitions? I'm sorry, I was late. Time.
No, all right. No. I woke up today and I realized that the time zone actually was, I set it to Mr. Bub's time zone. So I had to readjust it for an hour and a half because, or 2 hours because I set it to his time zone. So that might be my fault as well. But I thought, okay. So, all right, well then let's just get into question 2 then. I'll save my definition, but would you resist an all-powerful God if you found out that he was real?
I mean, are we talking actually all-powerful, like I stand no chance? Because that seems like it'd be a pretty big waste of time. Because I just be like, sure. Oh, God, I'm going to kill you. And he's going to be like, no, you're dead. It's like, oh, well, that shortest fight ever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure any iteration of a God that's ever been thought of is going to destroy you, Mr. Hipster. I'm going to call you Hipster Atheist because You told me you're not a hipster, but you got the beard, glasses, and
hey, I got these for free. I'm poor. And being a
All
hipster kind of implies some affluence. Just checking that out there.
all right. So anyway, what are both of your thoughts on that question?
I want to know what your answer was to question 1 still. I don't know why you're saving it.
You're talking about well, it might be pretty controversial, so let's
That's
build up.
better. That's what we want. Okay, fine. So
You're the top, man.
I not necessarily on the basis of being all powerful. The power is irrelevant except as it begs skepticism, because power corrupts. So all powerful would corrupt the most. Given that premise, it is reasonable to conclude that the benefit of the doubt afforded should be inversely proportional to the power level.
That is so much smarter than what I said.
Yeah, break that down to a poor Mexican from the east side of Bakersfield, California, because I didn't catch it.
Well,
Break that down, brother.
So you've heard this phrase, all power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. You've heard that before, right?
Marx.
So if you accept that as an axiom, tentatively, then given that premise, it would be reasonable to conclude that anytime you give the benefit of the doubt to anyone, it should be exactly opposite of how much power they have.
Okay.
So given that, God being all powerful you should be totally skeptical of anything he wants or does because he's so powerful.
That's an interesting premise. But that doesn't actually answer the question, but that's interesting either way. But Bob?
So the fact that he's all powerful has nothing to do with me resisting him. It's a question of what goodness they bring, you know? But I have a question for you, Diesel, about that is, do you think that might makes right?
Well, ultimately, what I think about that doesn't really matter, because if you have the might and you're going to do it, then it doesn't matter what I believe about that being right or wrong either way. So, see, this is what I have a problem with atheists or anti-theists when they start to talk and try to dissect the logic behind God. Is that, okay, if you don't believe in God, then it's pointless to even have these discussions about about anti-theism or resisting God, because you don't even believe in him in the first place. So it's kind of pointless to have the conversation. But if you are going to have the conversation, like with me, and then I assume that God is all powerful, then the questions that we're raising that make logical sense to us or have to do with logic or physics or whatever, God's has to be operating on a plane of existence that is just light years past whatever we could comprehend. So I don't try to go through and try to reason out everything that I think God would or wouldn't do, because I don't know everything there is to know in the universe. So what I think ultimately is irrelevant, I think, in my opinion. What do you think about that? You want to know what I think? I mean, I'll tell you. Am I breaking up? Am I freezing?
A little bit.
A little bit.
It's got us on the edge of our seats.
Well,
suspense is killing me.
So if I were to examine the gospel and the Old Testament and a lot of things, I will say there's plenty of things that don't make logical sense and I would find to be immoral. But that being said, there's information that I don't know that would positively change my opinion if I had more information. So I don't profess to know everything about God or the Bible or anything like that. I mean, I know he exists, but I'm doing my best to try to follow him, and I know that I fall short of that every single day. So try not to be too good.
If you have those kind of misgivings about certain aspects of the Bible, then it tells me that you're giving the benefit of the doubt to this deity. And I think if you reflect on the argument I made a little bit earlier, then I think that you will come to the conclusion that that's probably the wrong thing to do. You think
that I'll come to your conclusion?
I do. If you reflect on the argument I made earlier about power corrupting and absolute power corrupting absolutely, then there's no benefit of the doubt that should be afforded to a being that is absolutely powerful.
That's interesting.
It's just like the police. You know, the police have the power to do whatever they want to you. They can They can kill you and cover it up and pretend like it never happened. And there's nothing that almost anybody can do about it. That's a lot of power. So you have to have some kind of healthy skepticism about them, even if they're a good cop.
Interesting enough, I just want to throw this out there. There's a documentary released on YouTube, I think February 3rd. It's called Killing County or Killing Country. But it's about my hometown of Bakersfield, California, because we have like the highest rate of murders by cops like anywhere in the nation. But anyway, let's get over to Bub. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, are we still on resisting the all-powerful deity?
Yeah.
Or...
Uh-huh.
I mean, logically, I know that you're not a fan of it, but I can't give the credit of a thing being all-powerful because it logically makes no sense. There has to be parameters by which it exists in the universe. So, you know, I mean, like, take Thor. If Thor actually existed, I mean, he's kind of a dick in his pantheon. So, yeah, I'd probably resist him. I'd give him the due resistance that he deserved. You know, but since Yahweh's following is considerably larger, I mean, I would consider that I already do, you know, just by resisting various Abrahamic religions, whether we're talking about Christianity in its various forms, Islam in its various forms, and Judaism in its various forms. Although I spend almost no time on Judaism, admittedly.
Actually, I did like a 4-part series on Judaism with the Hasidic Jew, and that was a really interesting talk because if you think about this, like a Jew is going to be far more proficient at understanding like the Old Testament than a Christian because they can understand it in its language and historical context far better. And so some of his insights were absolutely fascinating to me. I really enjoyed that series that we did. But I will get back to this later on because, yeah, I'll expound a little bit more on what I believe, but I don't want to do so right now. Maybe we'll wait a little longer. But okay, number 3. By the way, if either of you have any questions for me, feel free to ask. But is atheism a viable option to theism?
I'll let Bub
I
answer
say
this
no.
one first.
Honestly, I'm not totally sure what this question is asking. I mean, insofar as being a replacement system of belief, atheism, like I already said, is a single data point that answers a single question. Do you believe in God? No. You know, that's really all it is. It's not seeking to replace anything. It's just you raise this proposition of a God existing. I say, yeah, I'm not buying it.
Mm-hmm.
So it like there is no religion behind atheism as a mechanism to replace theism. So the question doesn't make sense to me.
You want okay. Cass?
Yeah, I agree totally with what Bub just said. It's literally the only option. It's a dichotomy. Either there is a God or there is not a God. So you either believe there is a God or you don't believe there's a God. So there's only 2 options there, either theism or atheism. But if you're asking, like, is it obviously we as atheists find it much more reasonable to be atheist than to be theist. So, I mean, if that's what you're asking, then the answer is an obvious yes there too. So, yeah.
So, but okay, so the thing is, what I would define anti-theism is I call it evangelical atheism, which is wanting to spread your beliefs. Like it's not enough for me to have my atheism, is that I want to spread it to the world. So that to me is, I find that a bit confusing and awkward about people who define themselves as anti-theists. They get upset when I use the word evangelical atheism, but I really find the same level of dogma which is actually the next question right here, is that do atheists have the same kind of dogma and ignorance that is rallied against from other religions? because I find it. You guys say it's not a religion, but I find very similar elements. Maybe not perfectly aligned with religion, but I find the same kind of closed-mindedness and dogma and pragmaticism that exists inside of religion. It's just you're just claiming to not have a religion, but I see a lot of similarities.
It'd be helpful if you could, and I obviously understand that you're on the spot there, so maybe like later on in the episode, if you can think of it, some example of dogma that we could actually analyze there.
Dogma?
I'm very interested. Yeah, I'm very interested to hear what things you think atheists dogmatically hold to as a group.
Well, let's get Bub in here for a second. What do you think, Bub?
Well, I'd actually kind of like to answer the why do I feel the need to evangelize, quote unquote.
Sure. Even
that's not what I'm doing with my channel. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm trying to normalize atheism in society, and garner us, I don't know, not hate. I think that'd be a pretty good step up, because I've gotten more than maybe just one or two death threats from Christians, but
Jesus
kind of stands out.
Darwin.
But all I'm trying to do is get people to realize that, hey, atheists are just people too. Sure, some of us suck. You're gonna find atheists out there that are suck people, but me and realistically every other atheist I know that has a YouTube channel, they're not trying to evangelize or deconvert anybody from a religion to atheism. What they're trying to do is get religious people to realize, hey, we're people too, maybe treat us like it.
That's interesting. Kaz, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm trying to do some reflection on myself right now in the moment and trying to think, is it accurate at all to describe what I do here as evangelical? And I don't think that that's too big of a stretch. I think that when you encounter people who are atheistic and quote unquote evangelical, that what you're encountering is a person who has some kind of deep belief in the idea of truth. And because they believe in truth, they believe truth must be spread. And so, of course, we are all subjects and we all have our subjective ideas of truth. And the idea is to try to find people that you can create an objective truth with. So that's what I'm doing, I think. It's not so much I need you to be an atheist. I need us to come to an agreement on what the truth is. That's what I hope I'm doing.
Interesting. So I'm going to use this word here, and this is not a pejorative word because it's mostly used as pejorative, but ignorance is something that's seen as like a negative attack on someone. But the reality is that everybody on this planet, maybe with exception to myself, is ignorant about 99% of what there is in the universe. More than that. So, excuse me. So for me, if you're saying I don't believe in God and I'm going to define myself as this, like you're celebrating being ignorant on a certain topic. To me, I find that really weird. Like if I was an atheist, it wouldn't be something I'd want to define myself as. I would be more inclined to want to define myself as things that I do believe in. So, and here's my problem. Here's my problem with atheists. And I'm not saying that either of you actually do this, because I haven't gotten that from either of you, which is really cool, which is why I love having Kaz as a co-host. But where is like, okay, I don't believe in God. Therefore, if you believe in God, or if you've had some experience with the divine or the supernatural, you're stupid or illogical or immoral or whatever, To me, I find that extremely off-putting. And I've seen it a lot. It might be the case of people who are online. They're really pushy with their atheism, but generally speaking, if you don't believe in God, like I have no issue with you, whatsoever. It's cool. Like I have an issue with the abusive elements that I see inside of atheism. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so like there are definitely abusive atheists. I was one of them, right? There are bad atheists. I was one of them, right? Hopefully, I'm not that bad anymore. Hopefully, I've learned
It's pretty
enough
bad.
to be in the net positive at this current cross section of my life. But if I was to create an organization early in my atheism when I wasn't such a good person, or as good as I am now, or not as bad as I am now, however you want to look at it, right? That organization might be corrupted. It might be crappy, but that doesn't mean that it had to be that way. It just means that that's my human error to do that, right? So I mean, I really want to know, and this goes back to the question about the dogma, right? Because like, what is it as atheists as a group that we all share other than the disbelief of God? Because I just don't see any dogmas, and I don't see any inherent or necessary or even majority corruption.
So I think there is a very strict line here that you could draw right down the center. And I'm not sure how this breaks down statistically, but I would say people who describe themselves as a capital A atheist or hard atheist, those people tend to be the people who are more pushy and dogmatic with their beliefs, that not only do I not believe in God, but if you believe in God, then there's like, you have some kind of mental disorder. And as believers, I've been accused of that many times online. And I find it, from someone who has struggled with mental health issues in the past, and I know, Kaz, you've been open about that yourself, but to me, that is really, really harmful to play that card, because if you are struggling with mental health on either side of the issue, to have that used against you in an argument it could really stigmatize you getting help, seeking professional help, which is absolutely nothing wrong with. So I have seen that if you are being more being a hard, I would call it being a hard atheist, meaning that you know that there's not a God out there, which I don't really know how you would, being a Gnostic, let's say like a Gnostic atheist. But if you just simply don't believe, then I don't think that you would go out and try to evangelize other people or destroy religion. You just say, hey, I don't personally believe. If I did believe, I would be part of the religion. And I definitely know atheists are like that, and I have like no issue with them whatsoever. I just got back from Europe where I hung out with like 3 of them, like super cool guys,
But like, I know about what was her name? Madeline O'Hare, right? Was that her name?
Yeah. Madeline Mary O'Hare. Yeah, the most hated woman.
I know about. She's a great example of an atheist who is corrupt, right? But other than her, do you have any like is there any kind of like trend or pattern or something like that we can point to and be like, these atheists, they're making the rest of us look bad?
Yeah, you ever heard of a guy named? Well, never mind. I don't want to say his name because I know you have some interactions with him. But yeah, it's being very abusive, with what you believe in, and Christians are definitely guilty of this. Bub and I got to talk a little bit about that pre-game. But yeah, there's abusive elements in both sides. And I will say this, from doing this podcast, I've definitely come to understand that you can't paint everybody with the same brush, because I've met a wide range of atheists on this podcast. And yeah, if you're respectful about other people, maybe not respectful about all their beliefs, because yeah, there are some Christians who have some pretty downright dangerous and destructive views. And I, as a Christian, I call that out too.
Okay. So you want to move on to the next question?
Oh yeah, we can go on to 5. This one's for Bub. What would be your response to find out that a lack of religion would harm the world?
Doubt. I would doubt very much that
for
it would harm the world. I mean, like I brought up earlier, bringing up all the harm that religion is the root cause of. I mean, what harm has non-belief or the lack of belief outright caused? I mean, sure, there are racist atheists, there are homophobic atheists, like Kaz said, abusive atheists exist. You know, it's one of those things that happens when you throw in the human element. But a lot of excuses go out the window, I think, when religion goes out the window. So you've got less excuse to be an awful way. That's how I look at it.
There's definitely no safety net for you.
No, it's I actually consider myself to be more responsible for my words and actions because I don't believe in a God, because I don't believe there's going to be some ultimate permanent punishment where I wail and gnash my teeth forever and ever. You know, I have to face people now. If I wrong you, Diesel, I have to apologize to you because I don't
want to wrong me.
Forgiveness.
I'll get even.
No, I'm just saying as an example. If I were to wrong you, I wouldn't be able to go to the God that I believe in and be like, "Hey, I wronged this dude. Can I be forgiven?" Yeah, cool. You know, I have to go to you and be like, "Hey, I did this. This was an awful thing to do to you. Do you forgive me?" You know, I'm sorry.
So I'm not sure if you're finished because. Okay, so but first of all, you don't have to do that. I mean, if you choose to do that, that's great, and all props to you for doing so. I will tell you this, like inside of Christianity specifically, is that no, you don't get to just mess up and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then it's like all good. If you take a look, maybe I'll wait for him. Oh shoot, I better see. Yeah, he froze up. Let me get back in here.
It is.
You there, bub?
Maybe. Let me see if I can. Yeah, camera jacked up again.
Sorry, turn your camera off, man. I'm tired of seeing your face.
But yeah, no.
No, I do like your. Hold on. I do want to finish my my thought here. I do like you got a pretty sick beard, though, man. I couldn't come close to fill. I have like some bald spots right here that like, and right here. If you could take a look at this side.
You wouldn't see it now, but so do I. So do I.
Yeah.
It's
if you take a look right here,
it's like a comb over.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, that's what matters. So, God, I actually forgot that. Forgot what I was. Kaz, do you remember what I was saying? I actually completely went blank.
No, I don't.
Okay, maybe I'll remember in a second.
I was saying that I have more personal responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
I have to apologize to the person.
You said you have to, but you don't have to. I mean, if you choose to do so, I give mad props to you. Whereas I can tell you inside of Christianity, we're told if you go to give a gift unto God and you realize that you've harmed someone, somebody has a beef with you. Jesus doesn't say beef, but that's basically what he's saying. If you have somebody has a problem with you, you need to go and make right with that person before you go and try to present yourself to God. So we see lots of stories, example like Zacchaeus in the New Testament, who is someone he's screwing over a lot of people financially. And whenever he comes to Christ, he realizes that it's not enough to just say, "Oh, I'm sorry." What he does is he winds up repaying people back. And like, I think he winds up paying like double of what he stole from people. So yeah, I don't really buy into the notion, as you guys have both said, that atheism is the only, like, it only answers one question, because some things are logically going to follow from there not being a God. One of them being, either way, if you choose to do right or wrong, you're in a naturalism, if that's what you believe in, then either way, a Hitler or a Martin Luther King are going to have the same exact fate. That to me is a really dangerous thing to tell people. It's something equivalent to, like, if I went into, say I'm a teacher, in the beginning of the class, I say, hey, everybody's going to get an A or everybody's going to get an F at the end of the class. And it doesn't matter if you study, it doesn't matter if you do well, if you even come to class, everybody's getting either an A or an F. That's a really dangerous thing to tell people if the end goal of what I want is for them to study and to learn. So I do think it's a very dangerous proposition, and I think it's extremely dishonest and spurious to say that's the only thing that we believe in, because certain things are going to follow as a result of that. But mad props to you if you feel the need on you. It's incumbent to make wrong things that you've done in your life. I have a lot of respect for that.
So like Martin Luther King and Hitler, right? Both of them very well-spoken people, very affluent for their communities, and they both made a big name for themselves right before they died. And when they died, their lives were taken from them prematurely. Well, Hitler not, it's a little, but you know, they were killing him. They were about to kill him.
Yeah.
He was about to die. Anyways, his life was taken from him. I mean, he killed himself, but still, like, he wouldn't have killed himself if they weren't about to kill him. So,
right.
Ultimately, the big difference in how their fate, as you said, is that while Hitler is reviled and despised by history, and you know he's just the worst thing ever, Martin Luther King is praised. He's honored. His children enjoy all kinds of privilege based on his name. You know, it's a great thing. So I mean, even if you have no knowledge or care for the supernatural afterlife realm, there is life after death, right? There is the life of everybody else after you die that goes on, and they have to live with your legacies. So I mean, there's many practical reasons. That's just one, right? I could just go on and on and on about all the different reasons there are to be a good person, to do the right thing, that there are physical judgments of your life, right? Like if you make a dumb decision, there's a good chance you could die. You could, have you ever seen that show, 1,000 Ways to Die? It's just stupidity,
I actually just literally last night wrote about that in my third book I'm releasing on atheism. I mean, on racism. But I talk about that in the universe. There's like 1,001 things that want to kill us, and as humans, we're like our allies in this universe, and yet, we're constantly looking for ways to divide and fight ourselves. But yeah, that's a really, really, really interesting show.
My point is just that there's lots of good reasons, other than the potential for eternal judgment or salvation, to do the right thing, to be a good person to your fellow neighbor, and to try to, if it's that hard to come up with those reasons, I suggest that a person should spend more time reflecting.
Bub, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I'm pretty much with Kaz. I mean,
Kaz is wrong. 100%. Just so you know.
Always wrong. Never right.
You're siding with the wrong person. You want to side with Diesel here. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I mean, to say that I'm wrong in saying that atheism is a single data point, that's wrong. But
yeah. Wrong.
I mean, if you were to ask me as an atheist, let me rephrase that. If you were to ask me, do you believe in God? I say no. There are no tenets. There are no 5 pillars of atheism like there are in Islam. There are no 10 commandments of atheism like there are in Judaism and Christianity, and I guess Islam. Because I'm pretty sure Islam has the Old Testament too. They have the New Testament too. So, I mean, really, the Muslims have way more to learn than the rest of us do. But, I lost my train of thought.
I like the 10 commandments and the pillars. I would think, as an atheist, if you're going to celebrate or something, or have some kind of pilgrimage, you might like take a pilgrimage to like Christopher Hitchens' grave or something like that, and throw rocks at it. Throw rocks at it like they do to the Islamic Haji. Hajj.
Like we're on there on Hajj to, I can't remember the name of the meteorite. Is that what
to where?
I can't remember the name of the place that they go. Kaz, do you know offhand where the Muslim?
Are you talking about Mecca? The
Mecca.
Yes, Mecca. Jesus, how did that fall out of my head? Yeah, when they go on Hajj to Mecca, atheists are never gonna have that. And if we
That
do,
was a joke. That was a joke. That was a
we're
joke.
becoming a religion, a non-theistic one, but still,
That was a total joke.
Of course, it'd be really weird if we elevated people like the Catholics do the saints. Then it'd really get weird.
Even you could venerate Marx and Darwin. Just saying. Hey, Cass, can you take over for 1 minute? I got to close my window and I'm gonna grab a drink real quick.
Sure. I was just gonna say that even if atheists could be considered religious in some kind of way, right? Whatever that religion is, it should have a new name to it, because the atheism question is still just, we don't believe in God. So I mean, if they want to call themselves the atheist religion, I guess that's what they're doing, right? But that's not really what I'm gonna do.
I mean, there's already plenty of non-theistic religions out there. There's Satanism, Jainism,
Buddhism.
Forms of Buddhism are non-theistic. I should say forms of Buddhism are theistic because they're the outliers. So yeah, I mean, non-theistic religions definitely exist, but like people like us, flat out atheists, we're gonna be like, no, we're not buying into that. We're not giving 10% of our income to I don't know, the atheist community of Austin. We're not about to do that. For an atheist.
What I'm going to ask you, Bub, is do you think that it's possible that anti-theism, at least the more virulent strains of it, right, may inadvertently create some kind of rebound effect to increase the aesthetic of theism? Like we make theists look good when we are extra shitty.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. But then again, that's the human element jumping in again. If you're talking about a person being a piece of human garbage, that unfortunately will reflect on the anti-theist community, and it kind of should, especially if we're going to be people like myself who said that I am responsible for my actions. It is on me to apologize to whoever I wrong. Really, we need to be the best version of ourselves as often as we can. Mm-hmm. And, unfortunately, you're going to have some crappy anti-theists that pop up there, but human equation.
Cheers to you. I got to sing Tao. Yeah.
I've had a couple of times.
Thank you for being a respectful guest. And we obviously have some disagreements here. You two probably don't even agree on everything yourselves, but we could definitely be respectful and be charitable and goodwill in our interaction. And that being said, I'll take a drink of this before I tell you this one. I may be wrong, but I do think that people intrinsically know that there's something out there. Now, whether or not you're going to define it exactly the same,
exactly the opposite.
Wait, so whether or not I'll let you get in, but let me finish my thought. Whether or not you're going to say it has this name or that name, or we should or shouldn't even follow it, it's a different story. But from my analyzing it, I would have to say, and I've told you this already, there's plenty of things in the Old Testament and probably even in the New Testament that I find to be distasteful, immoral, and maybe didn't even happen. Lots of stuff in the Old Testament, I'm pretty sure didn't even happen. Like they exist as learning tools for us. They're like analogies, and there's deeper truths that the Bible tries to convey. But that being said, I do. If I'm trying to analyze what God would be doing, and from a very, very limited standpoint, it seems like intentionally hiding yourself for a time, and maybe even doing things that a lot of people would find to be immoral, probably plays into this grander scheme of what he's accomplishing, which is to allow us to experience a life where we where we suffer. And so that this lifetime is just preparing us for whatever is coming next. And this may be like just the first step of 1,000 different steps we have to take. Your dad put it really brilliantly, Kaz, when he talked about, he's like, this life is probably just something like a preschool. That it's just the first step that we're going to be going down on. And if there is a God out there, he has to be able to, or she, or they, or maybe God's non-binary, so I don't know what pronouns to use for him, but let's just say it, has to be thinking at a much deeper level. Like he might be doing stuff, for example, like with the slavery issue, a lot of people get hung up on that issue. And it may just be the fact that God is like a father, like wants us to overcome something that he says is right, like slavery. Like it may be the fact that he wants us to even defy him, maybe even choose not having a religion or going against maybe the gospel or something like that. I'm not saying I believe that 100%, but he's probably playing with some gambits that's probably a lot bigger than what we can imagine. But go ahead. You want to say something?
Which one of us?
I mean,
I had something I wanted to say a minute ago, but you said
may have
something
been
else,
making
and then I lost it.
Go ahead, guys.
I don't know. I just you said a lot of things there. I don't know what part to go back to.
Right.
I guess. Go ahead, Bub. You got something?
My shoelace is stuck in the wheel of my chair. All the time it does this. So you said a few minutes ago that
hold on.
you
Just
believe
go Chris style. Just go Chris style and just don't wear any shoes indoors. That's what we do here.
Yeah,
but okay,
the floor here is cement, and we have a lot of animals. That would be a mistake. But
well, we have slip here, but
you said a few minutes ago that you think atheists all believe that there is something out there, and I jokingly made an X-Files reference and said the truth.
My favorite series of all time.
So would you say that you agree with, I don't remember the exact verse, I know it's in Romans, but do you believe, except the fool has said in his heart there is no God?
That the fool has said that?
Yep, the fool has said in his heart there is no God. Direct quote.
I
can look it up. Romans something.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah, that's not Romans, actually. I'm pretty sure that's Psalms or Proverbs. What Romans talks about is it talks about that people suppress the truth. They suppress the knowledge about God. But yeah, I would probably, I would, I mean, just being honest and respectful with you guys, I do believe, if you ask me my opinion, I do believe that atheism is pretty foolish. Yeah. Respectfully.
I know what I wanted to say. Whenever you're done, Bob.
No, that's it.
So, I mean, the other part of that question, do you think we're lying to ourselves? Like, do you not believe me when I said that I put years into trying to figure out if there is a God or not? Because, I mean, going from the Catholic worldview, and I was pretty traditional as a Catholic when I was younger, going from that worldview to being an atheist is monumental at minimum. So do you think I just kind of decided I was going to lie to myself one day, or?
Well, it could be a process. It could be a process. You said one day. I don't know. I don't know what went through your mind for lots of time, however long that took you to deconvert. I will tell you this, having just got back from the UK and going to places like Westminster Abbey in London, if I was a part of the Church of England, like, I would not go to that church. I would not attend St. Paul's Cathedral or Notre Dame. So if atheists like walk away from that, I totally get that. Like, I would rather be an atheist than to attend a church like that. So I can understand why you would walk away from that, but that's a big jump to go from I don't believe in this to there is no God and this all came about by chance, and there is no rhyme or reason behind the universe. Like, I think that really defies human reasoning, to think that this could all come about by chance. And so you would have to commit a giant level of cognitive dissonance to get to that point, in my opinion. Respectfully, I'm saying this respectfully. Like, I'm not saying you guys are bad people or whatever, but I don't know the process in which you were to get to that, yourself. But yeah, that's my opinion.
For me, I went to a Baptist college, right? And I took Old and New Testament history as they're mandatory in that college. But I went to that college specifically because I wanted to get as deep into this as possible and figure out whether or not I should or should not believe there's a God. And I think that there's similar parallel lines to that in almost every atheist story I've ever heard. I've never heard an atheist tell me their deconversion story, and it's like, you know what? I just decided there ain't no God, and that's it. Didn't look into it, didn't do nothing, just,
I gotta say, as an aside, Diesel, the times that your camera decides to freeze are not merciful for you.
It's almost as if God is doing it for you.
Facial expression.
Anytime this face is on screen, just consider it a blessing from the good Lord Almighty. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. All right. Maybe when I watch it back, I'll have to see when I'm freezing, because when you're doing these talks, you always look fine. You can never tell that you're a robot or whatever. So I have one more question, unless anyone wants to add anything to this.
Yeah, I do.
I just to say this. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Cass.
No, you said you wanted to say something else before we go to the next question. So go ahead.
Well, you talked about you went there to figure out whether you would or wouldn't believe in God. I mean, I will tell you this. I did go to Bible college for the same exact reason, and it wound up turning me into an atheist. So I get where you're coming from. But again, to say you don't believe in Jesus Christ or the Old Testament, that's a giant jump to go from that to this all just came about by chance and there's no first mover. You would have to believe in the impossible odds of life arising from non-matter or non-life. That's a pretty dang big jump to make. Like, and this is why I say it's not really honest to say this is the only thing that we believe in, because if you don't believe in God, then you have to believe that this all came about by randomness and chance. If it wasn't intentionally designed, I generally just do not see how people could honestly get to that. Like that is such a jump from I don't believe in Christianity to, okay, well, I believe that there's no God. Because Christianity may be false. I'll admit that. It may be false, but how do you get from that to atheism? Because I've seen atheists say the number one way to create an atheist is to read the Bible. Well, it's like, okay, even if I read the Bible and say 100% of this is false, how do you get to atheism from there? That's a giant jump.
Yeah, well, usually we do some exploring into other religions, some theological study. For me, I had a pretty big theological body of knowledge myself, just because I always loved mythology. I always loved all that kind of stuff. So I just knew all these different other religions that were already out there, right? But like, let's say you never heard of Thor, you never heard of Zeus or any of the other gods, right? You never found out that there were false religions out there, then maybe that might be something you need to do, right? But I mean, you know that there are so many versions of quote unquote God and creator and whatever that are just obviously not correct, that nobody else believes in. And then this one, which you were convinced of your entire life, now you have doubts for that. So I mean, it's not a leap of logic. It's pretty much just being consistent with the evidence you already have available to you.
Okay, so let me ask you guys both this. This is an honest question. Do you believe that atheism takes any faith at all?
None.
No.
Okay.
By definition, none.
By definition, none.
By definition, none.
This is what I wanted to say earlier. Like, you had asked if atheism has some kind of dogma or ignorance that is rallied against by other religions. And I said, you might say that the dogma of atheism, if you really want to stretch the definition of the word dogma to its absolute limit, you could say that the dogma of atheism is that there's no compelling reason to believe in gods. Full stop. Because at the moment that statement is no longer true for you, you instantaneously cease to be an atheist. There's no compulsion. There's no aspect of enforcement. It's purely internal and definitional.
I actually completely agree with that. If you were to say that you don't have a reason, or you've never seen compelling evidence, that would actually make sense, because atheists do say, well, there's no evidence that a God exists. Well, what you should be saying is that you've never seen any evidence that God exists, because you don't know what evidence is out there in the universe. As I said, we don't know 99.9% of what there is to know in the universe. So that would be a more accurate statement if you said, I've never seen anything that would incline me to believe in God. And I would say, yeah, no issue whatsoever, But then you have to understand that other people have had these experiences. Other people were atheists like myself who had a religious experience that has changed their life. And so if you don't believe in that, that's fine. But because you haven't experienced something doesn't mean that I haven't also experienced that as well. I'm sure both of you have experienced things that I haven't, and vice versa. So
but we don't value personal experience because we know that personal experience is easily manipulated and outright faulty. I mean,
which you don't know. Okay, I agree with that.
If I quizzed you on what you ate over the last week, you'd probably give me some false information. You have there's so many different terms for remembering things incorrectly. The word escapes me. There's when you think that you invented a joke that you accidentally heard before, and then you just forgot that you heard it. There's a word for that. I can't remember the word right now. I'm sure it will pop up later. But
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like when you lie on accident. There is you lie on accident. Actually, Isaiah's epistemology exists of 3 books, and one of them is The Invisible Gorilla. And it talks a lot about our blind spots and cognitive blindness that we have, and how we can, it shows exactly scientifically how we can remember things that never happened. And so yeah, I get that. I totally get what you're saying with that, Cass. But again, you don't know what someone else has experienced, So for me, as a Christian, I don't go around trying to disprove Muslims or Hindus or Buddhists or Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever. I don't go around trying to disprove people because I have no idea what that person might have experienced in their life. So just because I believe in Christianity doesn't automatically, I don't automatically say, well, no other religion can be true, because I have no idea how God might manifest himself to another person. So I know what I've experienced. I know it's changed my life, but I don't speak to anyone else's experiences.
Okay, so I'm curious about something. So let's say, in my case, because it's
say what
factual. Let's say in my case, because it's factual, that God has not manifested. Wouldn't that imply that God wants me to be an atheist? Maybe it's better for me as a person, and maybe it's not a foolish conclusion to come to? Because if that's what God wants for me.
Well, yeah, I actually would agree with that. And I believe that the reason why we're here is so that we can experience a not God universe. Like, if we are created in heaven, for example, as the Bible describes it, there's not even a light. There's not even a sun, because God's presence illuminates everything. And if you were born in that, you might think, okay, that would be great, especially if I'm going to live forever and I'm never going to doubt whether or not God exists or not. That might seem great on the surface level, but then you would never understand what a potential reality of not knowing that God existed, or not knowing that you're going to die one day. You would be completely deprived of that experience. So I do believe that what we're experiencing here is we're not meant to totally know or understand God, because if he wanted that, he could have just created everybody in heaven. That'd be pretty easy. But I think an overall bigger good is being accomplished here on this planet. By the way, I got a San Miguel here, so staying with Asia. What are you drinking, bub?
Right now, I'm drinking Outer Belt Brewing Company. It's a Columbus, Ohio brewing company. Their Cloverleaf Irish Stout. It's pretty weak. It's only 4.6% alcohol by volume, but
4.6.
I didn't know this was a drinking stream. Nobody told me this was a drinking stream.
you didn't
Just-
see me regularly.
Yeah.
Every stream's a drinking stream if you want.
Sparkling water.
Cass just vapes.
Yeah.
That's his vice. Cass, if you might take over for a second, we're going to be wrapping up here in the next 20 minutes.
Well,
I'm going to be
I was gonna go
interviewing.
get you a drink.
What was
Go
that?
get myself a scotch. Kick back.
Do it.
All right. Yeah.
Go
Cass,
ahead, go ahead. Take your time.
I'll be
Take your
back.
time. Okay. So, Bob.
Yep.
If you see a person's belief will cause harm, and you are unable to synthesize a compelling argument to sway their interpretation, would you resort to undermining the belief? Oh, that was for him. Damn it. See? Oh, so sorry.
Yeah, that was his last question that we never got to.
Yeah, I was going to ask him about that. I don't even know. The only if you're causing harm because of your the question was would you disabuse someone of their beliefs if you knew the overall net outcome would be harm to someone? Did we already ask that question yet?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Nope. That's the one we hadn't done.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just wait for him, I guess. So, I mean, I want to talk about my answer that I never got to real quick. For number 5, what would your response to find out that a lack of religion would harm the world? And I would say that if it could be demonstrated that the harm inherent to the lack of religion, that there is no separating the good from the dogma, and it's impossible to get otherwise, then I might be convinced that religion is necessary and cease my efforts against it. But for many reasons, even within that answer, this is so divorced from reality that it defies reason. We have anti-vax, prayer-healing parents that let their children die, power-mad, fascist-seizing political power groups, sheep-like herding of children into the abuse mills they call Sunday school, clear justification for slavery, misogyny, elitism, and an unholy war, death-obsessed population intent on destruction and avoidance of knowledge, societal moral dysfunction and growth decay. It's just, there's so many different things to list that I could say are bad things about religion that you're going to have a very hard time making that argument to me. You know?
Yeah. And
But
that's
argument-
actually something I brought up pretty early on in the
What
stream.
argument?
The harm
back.
caused by religion. This goes back to question which
4.
one? 4 or 5?
Yeah, 4
4?
or 5. Yeah, you're right. 5.
5?
5.
Okay.
5.
Yeah. So Kaz was answering question 5
Right.
for himself. And it's pretty much the same answer I had is I would doubt it, because the idea that world where lacking religion is more harmful is divorced from reality. Because you see so much harm that religion causes. How are you gonna say that a world without religion is worse?
Well, did you want to add something?
Who, me?
Bub?
No.
No, Kaz, shut up. You shut up, Kaz. You've said enough, man. Piss me off. No, okay, so by the way, just breaking this up for a second, did any of you get a chance to check out the footage of the young man being murdered by the police?
In Memphis,
I didn't.
Tennessee, I want to say his name is pronounced Tyree.
Tyree?
When did this happen? Yesterday or something?
In
They
the last
released-
couple of days, I think.
It didn't happen yet. It happened a few months ago.
Oh,
Actually, something interesting his mom said was that, well, I hope this sets a new precedent for expediently handling officers who act inappropriately, that they all got fired, because many times when it's a right cop doing things like that, like it takes months, if not years, to get justice. And those guys were tossed out quickly. Actually, just watching the footage, I couldn't help but thinking these guys are really freaking incompetent. Apart from the violence, like there's 4 of these guys trying to arrest one guy, and he's actually able to get up and run away. So if they were able to subdue that dude when they had him down, like none of that would have even happened. Ultimately, none of it would have happened if he would have complied, if we're being honest. But yeah, those guys just seemed really incompetent. Like they should not be police officers in the first place. But do you have any thoughts on that, Bub?
They shouldn't have been police officers. I don't think the police system as it exists in America should exist because it's built on the basis of slave chasing. But, you know, just part of the problem is systemic because there is body camera footage that was leaked of one of the cops on the scene saying, "I hope we stomp his ass." This was intentional. It wasn't something that just sort of happened ad hoc in the situation. It was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and another view of body camera while the beatdown is happening, you know, the cops are saying, "Give us your hands, give us your hands," as a show for their body cameras. But there's another camera from a streetlight that captured the whole thing on film. And the cops are holding him by his wrists and they're just beating on him like he's a punching bag.
Yeah, man. I mean, you see him kicking them in the face whenever he's down. I mean, race aside, I don't see how you do that to a human being. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around how you could kick someone who had in the face. Like it's really hard for me to imagine that, because I believe that those people are created in God's image and have a value. And transitioning back to our topic as we wrap up, because what Kaz said. Well, Kaz, I mean, it really boils down to this, in my opinion. People like Jeffrey Dahmer had some pretty evil inclinations, and flat out said that his atheism contributed to him feeling that he had a right to kill and eat people, because he felt that these people had no intrinsic value or dignity behind them. And will have
Jeffrey died.
What?
Jeffrey died a Christian, and he
hold on. I was talking, Cass. Let me finish. Yeah, let me finish my thought. Because you can have other people like the atheist mass murderers who have arisen in the last century, and they're going to feel that, well, if there's not a God, well, maybe I could do a Kim Jong or Kim Il Sung and create myself into God. And yeah, that's really, for me, religion definitely. I'm really, really against. I'm really against organized religion as it is. Like, I think religion should be a very personal thing, and whenever you start involving the government or institutions, like it's bound to mess it up. So I'm not a very religious person myself, but I think having something, believing that there is purpose behind something, like if I'm walking down a beach and I see like a sandcastle and I see that there's some kind of intention behind it, it gives me a desire not to walk up and kick it and destroy it. Whereas I'm walking, I see like a pile of sand, I might be inclined to knock it over or something like that. So I do believe that certainly it's helped me in my life, but I believe that having that as a general idea that people are created with value and purpose is a positive thing. But Cass, go ahead, please.
I would agree that, any kind of infrastructure can be supportive and therefore helpful, and especially relative to somebody's current position, right? I mean, when we're saying helpful or good, we're talking about the net for the entire world, I think, right? But I wanted to go back to something you said earlier. You said that everyone, something like you said, everyone secretly believes that there's a God. Is that about right? something like that.
I didn't say specifically God, but I said something out there, because because what you would have to believe in absence of that, I think is too absurd to really be believed, like, and to be able to truly justify that to yourself. Honestly, I think it's too out there.
Okay, I just wanted to respond to that because I think the exact opposite. I think everybody secretly knows that there is nothing out there, that there is no God, there is no afterlife. And the evidence I have some evidence for that, right? That evidence is at every single funeral that you'll ever go to. There's always people crying, grieving, being devastated and emotionally broken by a death. That doesn't make sense. If people truly in their heart believed that this life is not the end, that there's a future and afterlife, whatever, why is there any grief whatsoever? You should be happy. They are in the best place ever. They're getting waited on by Jesus. They're, just in the lap of eternal luxury. So what is there to grieve about? But you are grieving. Well, you can't help it. Yeah. And that's because you know in your heart that there is no God.
I will end up, we're coming to the end of this hour. So I will say there's an amazing story in the book of Acts about a woman named, I believe her name is Lydia, but I could be wrong. I'm not a biblical scholar. But it says that she was known for like making clothes and stuff for the widows and the people who were in need. And man, this is a really touching story. I might tear up a little bit because I think about my mom and her contributions that she did to help people. And there were like 1,000 people when she died who came to her funeral. Even though we had like a really small church, he impacted a lot of people. But it says when they go there to bury her, the women are crying and they are they're showing off the clothes that she made for them. So I think you can recognize, and I'm sorry, I know it's not good to tear up like this. It's just reality. Maybe it's the San Miguel affecting me right now, but ultimately, I get what you're saying. But ultimately, yeah, you're going to mourn the people because you don't get to just to see them or spend time with them. When my mom died, she died on my birthday in 2008. And yeah, I miss her every day. I still think about her. It's not like the loss doesn't hurt you, but yeah, I positively, there's no correlation between that, because I know even if the Hindu God exists or the Islamic God exists, there's no way he would ever punish like someone like my mom, even if she got the wrong religion right, even if she believed in the wrong religion. And I believe very similar things about people like Muslims and other people who I've encountered from opposite faiths, man. I've met some Muslims that I'm certain would be in heaven above any Christian, or almost any Christian I've ever met. So yeah, I don't see that as a contradiction, but I understand what you're saying, but it does give us comfort. It does give us comfort. And any chance either of you have read Spare by Prince Harry? No. Sorry. Bub?
No. It's
highly recommended.
But I'm not interested in royals. So.
Yeah, well, if you're not interested in the royals, that's all the more reason to check it out, because he lamblasts them pretty bad. He lamblasts all the institutions, and yeah. But okay, we're gonna have to curtail the last question right now. But does anybody have any last thoughts? Sorry about that. I didn't cry. My eyes are pretty dry here.
Hey, I don't mean to.
What?
I don't mean to be a dick.
You're not less of a man if you cry.
Yeah, I
just saying. You're not.
You don't mean to be a dick, but you are a dick.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a jerk or try to, make you, I understand that that's a sensitive subject for you, and that, you'll have emotions running high when you start to think about even that question, right? I would just ask you to, when you have a chance, reflect on what it means when, if you had another person that had that exact same experience as you had, right, with your mom, right? Mm-hmm. They feel the exact same way about their mom that you do. You just totally empathize with them 100%, but they are a Muslim, they are a Jew, they're whatever, right? So if you accept Christianity as true, then there's a good chance that you'd have to tell that person, hey, you might not get to see your mom ever again because of hell or whatever, right? Like, that's just as cruel and it's implied in the religion. You don't even have to say it. It's just there. It's always there. You're telling everybody that isn't part of your religion that their loved mothers and fathers are burning for eternity, or whatever your version of hell is, you know?
I absolutely get that. I absolutely get that. And that's why I'm not one of these fire and brimstone type preachers or people, you know. It's not even what I believe anyway in the first place. But Bub, I appreciate that. But Bub, you got any last thoughts?
Not really. I mean, this was a good talk. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
The hell out of it?
But
how about you enjoy the heaven into it? How about we do that?
Enjoy the
I mean, hey, whatever boats your float, man. But yeah, no, it was a good talk. I have a lot of trust issues with theists because I've come across the red pill religion types. I'm sure Kaz knows who I'm talking about. You know, and they're just like, oh, we'll come into our community and we'll have, you know, decent conversation, and they just crap all over you the whole damn time. You know, so it's good to find a theist that's actually, you know, trustworthy to talk to about things, and I kind of look forward to having more discussions.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, really, that's really one of the highest compliments I've ever gotten from this channel. So definitely appreciate that. Would you mind briefly just we had mentioned something about your partner. Would you mind if I mention that?
Alex?
Hi.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Alex. Yeah, we are. Oh, okay. Yeah, great. We talked a little bit. I don't want to go into full detail with that, but as soon as we hang up here, I am interviewing someone from the LGBT community, Amy Newman. Kaz is no stranger to Amy Newman, but she is a transgender woman, and so I'm very excited. I've been trying to talk to her for like the last 6 months, so I finally got her on the line. She just messaged me right now. So, but yeah, you know, we can definitely have talks, and you know, honestly, agree to disagree. I mean, I find it absolutely fascinating to have talks with people who have different opinions and views. Even though I think you guys all secretly believe in God, but that's another story. But you know, we could bang out ideas and still respect each other, man. Like I respect the living hell out of you guys or the living heaven in you guys for sitting down, having conversations, and being civil and cordial, man. I really, really, really appreciate that. So I am gonna
you as well.
Yeah, I am gonna end this podcast, but yeah, thank you. And Mr. Beelzebub, Satan himself, has a YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out that heathenry, we're going to put the link in the description. And yeah, that was fun. And you guys have a good Sunday here. But yeah, thank you.